After years of having chickens and then a couple years of having a mixed flock, I finally made the jump to an all duck flock. Now, I was nervous at first. I'd always heard that ducks are noisier, messier, harder to care for. But honestly, I wish I would have done it sooner. From their personalities to their care needs, and of course, their rich, decadent eggs, ducks have truly won me over. And of course, this is a deeply personal choice. Everybody's situation and preferences are going to be unique. But let me share with you some pros and cons from my personal experience and why ultimately I have settled on an all duck flock. Hi, everybody. My name is Cora. It has been forever and a half since I have actually introduced myself here. So I thought I would take just a second to say, hey, nice to meet you. I'm so happy you're here. This is my channel where I share a lot about my passion for back to basics, old fashioned arts and skills, slow living, simple, wholesome food, and natural healing. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and stay tuned. I'd like to be presumptuous here and say that the majority of us who get into backyard poultry are in it for the eggs. So let's start by comparing chicken eggs and duck eggs. How many eggs do chickens versus ducks lay per year? Very breed dependent. There are tons of different lay rates for chickens and same for ducks. There are certain breeds on each side of the spectrum that are more high production, some that are better for meat, some that are kind of a good mix of both. The khaki Campbells are a very high production duck. Same with the white leghorns on the chicken side, very high production chicken for eggs. So look for a breed that suits your needs in that purpose, but I wouldn't say one category or the other wins as far as production quantity. They can be very comparable. Now, what I do think ducks absolutely win at is just the egg composition. Duck eggs have a much bigger yolk to white ratio. Their yolks take up so much more of the egg. And for me, who loves puddings and custards and putting eggs in their coffee and ice cream and all of the yolky things, that is a huge win in the duck column for me personally. Now, how often and where they lay their eggs, I also have found a ducks to be a win in this column. Chickens will typically lay their eggs in a nest, usually a box that is provided for them that is a little bit off of the ground. Typically, again, not always, but typically they will get into a routine. They will be trained to lay in that box, and you can reliably find their eggs there. And that is all fine and dandy if your chickens are in confinement and they are trained to that routine and you are checking the eggs frequently. But if you are free ranging, chickens lay their eggs willy nilly all throughout the day with no regard to your schedule. And if they are out free ranging, they will lay their eggs in the bushes. Ducks, however, have a 24-hour laying cycle. They will always lay their eggs between about 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. So very, very reliably, I can always find every single duck egg, even though I personally choose to do a lot of free ranging. So again, for me, this is a huge bonus in the duck column. They are a little bit messier with their nests, so the eggs tend to be a little bit dirtier than the chicken eggs, but honestly, not much. I use a deep litter method in our coop, and in the really wet seasons, the eggs will get kind of mucky, but the majority of the year, the eggs are actually very clean. Now, as far as all seasonality laying goes, again, ducks and chickens are pretty comparable. Depending on the breed and depending on your management style, you could have eggs all year. If you provide a little bit of supplementary lighting, ducks can lay a reduced quantity, but still give you a steady supply of eggs, even throughout the winter, just like your chickens would. Dual purpose is a really popular thing within the homesteading community. Most of us want to get more than one use out of the animals and the things that we have on our properties. So raising birds that can both produce us eggs and provide us with meat is really valuable. Now, which is better in this instance, chickens or ducks? Again, it's a highly personal choice, but I am again leaning towards ducks. There are a lot of really great dual purpose chicken breeds out there, and I have raised several of them. They can produce you a decent quantity of meat, but it takes them quite a while to grow to size, and you are never going to get that big, breasty Cornish cross body off of a dual purpose heritage breed chicken. It's not going to happen. And that can be really difficult for some people to get on board with because we're used to having a really standardized chicken shape, right? Lots of breast meat, very plump little drumsticks. Going to a heritage breed can be kind of shocking for people who have never experienced it. And that's not to say that it's bad. I have eaten plenty of heritage breed dual purpose chickens, and they have amazing flavor, fantastic fat, beautiful schmaltz. But typically, what I would do is I would eat the old laying hens. I wasn't necessarily hatching out with the purpose of meat production because the amount of feed and energy that went into it was not producing enough meat that it felt worthwhile to me. So I would eat the roosters. That was fine, but it wasn't great. It was more like I had something to make soup with, not I had a roast chicken dinner. Now, the ducks put on quite a bit more meat. The particular breed that I have, at least. I am raising heritage breed Anconas right now. They lay a lot of eggs, but they also produce a pretty nice carcass within about 4 to 6 months, depending on if they're, male or female and what they're eating. I have found that I enjoy the amount of meat and the flavor of the meat on the ducks much more. They also produce considerably more fat per animal, which, as somebody who saves and renders a lot of their own animal fats and really enjoys cooking with animal fats, that is a big point in their favor. I will say the point where chickens win is how easy it is to process them. Ducks are harder to defeather. They are considerably harder to defeather. And perhaps I have just not got the right method down yet. And I will definitely keep experimenting and learning and growing in that skill set, I am sure. But chickens are pretty easy to process and pluck. So that is a pro in the chicken column. Another thing I really love about having ducks for meat is that it cures beautifully. I do a lot of home charcuterie. I really enjoy it. It's a fun way to really preserve your harvest, but it's also just a really beautiful art form. You can make some truly decadent dishes, and a cured duck breast, duck confit, duck rillettes. So delicious. And with the chicken, there's not really a great way to preserve it in that manner. I have done some duck rillettes, um, but mostly it just goes in the freezer and it's for the soup pot, which is fine. The soup pot is a noble end destination to reach, but it is just not as preferred as the beautiful duck charcuterie lends itself just to some really beautiful meals and snacks and things that my family really, really enjoys. Management style. Chickens are more high maintenance, but chickens handle confinement better. So, again, highly individualized, depending on the environment that you want to provide, how you plan to manage your animals. If you have a chicken tractor and you keep them contained, then they are fantastic. Embrace the chickeniness of the chicken, right? I always see Justin Rhodes and all these people using their chickens to till and do these amazing things. That's phenomenal. At this point in my life, I am not doing that. I have really hilly, lumpy ground. Moving a tractor like that over anything is a pain in the tuchus. I would just rather have my solid, skunk proof, everything proof coop and then let them out to free range during the day and maybe move them around with my netting if I want them in a specific area. That is the management style that I am choosing. And chickens will fly over those mobile nets if you don't have their wings clipped, at least the breeds that I have kept. So mine were turning into little Houdinis. They were escaping all the time. I did not want to keep up on keeping their wings clipped. They were tearing up my perennials, scratching everything to bits. And I didn't like it. It was not working for me. I was not utilizing the chickeniness of the chicken. And so it was a hindrance, not an asset. The ducks, They don't fly. The breed that I have, some ducks do fly, but the breed that I have, the Ancona ducks, they do not fly. They are very docile. I can herd them so simply. I say, here, ducky, duckies, and we move in a formation. It is amazing. If anyone has ever tried to herd chickens, you know how insane that is. So going from years and years of chickens, and if they get out and they don't want to cooperate, or if you're trying to free range and then you're trying to get everybody to do something, it is nearly impossible. Going from that to to the ducks and having them trained, I go out and say, bedtime duckies, and they all waddle their little booties right into bed, and I can shut the door. I go out and I snap at them and say, here we go, duckies, and they all get in formation and they waddle where I want them to go. It is really, really cool. It is a highlight of my life. It makes me happy. It brings me such great joy, and I can really easily manage them and move them around. Plus, if I turn them out in my garden, they are not tearing up my tulips. They're not tearing up my blueberry bushes. They are very respectful. They will devour seedlings, of course, but once the plants are a little bit larger and more established, they are pretty plant friendly. And I can turn them out into my corn patch and have them act like weeder geese. I can have them go through and do pest control. I don't have a ton of slugs in my area, but I have a ton of earwigs. Nasty, nasty earwigs. And they will do great earwig patrol. So I can turn them in with the corn and the pumpkins and the things once they're a little bit more established. And they do phenomenal pest control. They're much more garden friendly. So again, for me personally, at this stage in life with my management preferences, they are suiting my needs much better. Now, on the topic of free ranging, there are a lot of chickens and different breeds that are great free rangers. They can be very scrappy, but I have noticed that the ducks that I have are even better. They surpass the chickens that I've had that I thought were good free rangers. These guys will snub the food dish in order to go forage, and they will go in a little formation and they will just go to town. They'll come back in the afternoon when they're ready to have a shade break and they'll get into the food dish then. But they would much prefer to go and look for little bugs and greens, which is really cool because my chickens, in my experience, chickens are like velociraptors. You throw out scratch and they are on it. They are not going to snub the scratch in order to go free range. But again, maybe that's just my personal experience, but in the 10 or so years that I've had chickens, I have not met a single chicken that would snub store-bought food in order to go forage. On that note, chickens can be super destructive, right? They tear stuff up like crazy, but ducks have a reputation for being super messy. They are in a way, but not really. They are wetter. They need a little pond or a little puddle or a kiddie pool or something to wash themselves in and play in. And they need deeper water to kind of wash their nostrils. I find them way cleaner in my personal delusions. I like the wet mess better than I like the dry, dusty mess. Chickens will make moon craters, and I live in a kind of dry environment. So these big moon craters, they are just dusty. It's dusty, dusty, dusty. The wet mess is not that bad. Like, I dump out their pool once a day. It can get a little grubby, but they're not like making everything into a puddle. They're not tracking the wet in very much. Like I said, a couple times in the really wet, rainy season, which is short in my area, then their coop gets a little bit mucky and a little bit wet, and the eggs can get a little bit mucky and a little bit wet. But the vast majority of the year, the wet mess is outside, and it's a total non-issue. Housing needs. Chickens need roosts. Ducks, they don't need any of that. They need something that is predator-proof on the ground. So it's way easier to build a duck house than it is to build a chicken house because you're not having to put in roosts or anything like that. You basically just need a box with a roof that you can shut so that the predators don't get in at night. And then mulch is really nifty. Or I've seen Duckingham Palace plans where they have a mesh floor and it's movable. But essentially a duck structure is logistically way easier because you're not trying to measure how many square feet of roost per how many birds you have or deal with any of that. You really just need somewhere for them to get locked up from predators at night. Now, last in this kind of management category, I want to talk about the noise level. I have always heard that ducks are so obnoxious and noisy, and that really was a major holdup for me because my husband did not want a super, super loud. I mean, we were thinking like rooster level loud, and we currently live in a bit of a neighborhood. We did not want some kind of really super obnoxious, loud animals constantly disrupting the peace. Again, this is probably not universal of all duck breeds, but our ducks are not obnoxious. And I've met some runners and some khaki Campbells and some other ducks. And yes, they can be loud if they're startled or excited, but it's not all the time. It's not very much. I honestly think they're much quieter than our chickens. The egg song from the chickens was much more noticeable and frequent throughout the day. The ducks are very conversational. They're very chatty. It's a lot of very low tonal, and it's just really cute. I think, again, intensely personal. You might think it's really charming, or you might think it's super annoying. But for us, we really, really adore listening to our ducks chat. They're very calm. They're not often squawking. They will occasionally, if they're trying to get each other's attention or something scares them, but it's very infrequent. So I would challenge the people who say that ducks are insanely loud. I don't know what kind of ducks you have, but mine are just calm and conversational. So for me, ducks win. I wish I would have given ducks a try way sooner in my backyard poultry journey. But this, of course, is not going to be the right fit for everybody. If you have a smaller space and you want to keep your animals in confinement, chickens are probably going to be the way to go. Ducks don't handle confinement nearly so well. If the wet mess gives you the ick, then that might not be the way to go. If you are going to harness the chickeniness of the chicken to its fullest potential, then chickens could be a really phenomenal option. And if you don't like the taste of duck meat or you don't like the taste of duck eggs, then obviously chickens would be the choice for you. The big encouragement I want to leave you with is that you should not be scared off by all of the naysayers, okay? If this sounds like something that is up your alley that you would enjoy, then you should give ducks a try. Worst case scenario, you try them and you don't like them, and that's okay. You can eat them, they're delicious. You can rehome them, that is totally acceptable. There is no harm in giving them a try. Thank you everybody for spending your incredibly valuable time with me today. I hope that you found value in this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your personal experiences, whether they're good or bad, any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, dreams for your future. Let me know in the comments. And I will see you guys next time. Sadly, that is the end of this video, but if you haven't seen it yet, check out this video where I show you one of my favorite duck recipes, cured duck breast. I think you will love it. It's worth raising ducks for this alone.